Hey, what's going on, faithful? Thanks for joining us this week on the Niners news update. So, first and foremost, to get into, it's been an unfortunate week after we bulldozed the Falcons last week. Unfortunately, we did lose, and in addition to not picking up the win, we also were without Elijah Mitchell, our star rookie running back, for the fourth straight game. So Jeff Wilson Jr. was in line to start again. He's been playing pretty well. He came off a 21 carry, 110-yard game, but definitely, not the same threat that we have with Elijah Mitchell. So in this game, we ended up losing a very close 20-17 game to the Titans. It was a game where we would actually start off with the ball first, and Jimmy was facing heavy pressure from the very first play of the game, but he narrowly sidestepped a sack and completed a ball to Ayuk for a 4-yard pickup, just to get the drive started on a positive note. Jimmy ended up going 5 for 5 on the first drive. None of his drives were more impressive than when he found Debo on an in-breaking route, which would get the Niners all the way down to the 1-yard line. And on the very next play, speaking of Jeff Wilson Jr. would take it in on a 1-yard rushing touchdown. With the extra point by Robbie Gould, we would go up 7-0. So Tennessee's first offensive play was a screen pass to Dontrell Hilliard, their running back, or one of their running backs that's filling in since they're obviously notably without Derrick Henry. He got blown up by Nick Bosa in the backfield for a loss of 8. So Tennessee did manage to convert a 3rd and 11 that they had to face when Tannehill found Westbrook Akine. And on the next play, though, Samson Ibukam would pick up another sack. Now, I feel like we have been mentioning that almost weekly because he's been coming on really strong. And that gives him now 4.5 sacks on the season for Ibukam.
Yeah, you know he's going to be around next year.
Yeah, I mean, he's coming in on a 1-year deal that we got from the Rams, and I would imagine that we'd bring him back for defensive line depth, especially since I don't see us keeping D Ford next season. So that puts Tennessee behind in the down and distance again. They were behind in the down and distance a lot in the game in general. That kind of came from not having Derrick Henry that they could run the ball on first and second down with.
Right.
So this
if
time
they get Derrick Henry back, man, I don't know if he's supposed to be back anytime soon, but if they do get him back, I mean, the fact that they still won this game,
he's
is,
projected to be
surprising.
activated either around the last game of the season or potentially for the playoffs. So we will certainly cover that and let you know as soon as he is set to be activated. This time though, Tennessee couldn't overcome being behind in the down and distance, and they would be forced to punt. We would move the ball well. I mean, we were continuing to move the ball, all throughout the entire first half, all the way into the red zone. But Jimmy would actually force the ball into Kittle in the end zone, and he was covered by Jack Rabbit Jenkins, formerly known as Janoris Jenkins, and he would pick off the ball, and that would give possession of the ball to Tennessee at the 20 since it was picked in the end zone. Prior to the pick, Jimmy was 8 for 8 for 104 yards. It was also the first red zone pick Jimmy's thrown since 2019, November of 2019 against the Cardinals.
He had a really good start though. Before that, I mean, 8 for 8 for 104 yards.
Yeah.
Like, man, that's about as good as it gets.
Yeah, I mean, and he's been hot coming in. We'll put up a graphic of Jimmy coming into the Tennessee game and let you know like what his numbers have been looking like. He's had the second best quarterback rating to Aaron Rodgers during the last 4 games. So definitely came into this game playing very, very efficiently. Now on the on that drive that Tennessee would get and they'd take over with, facing a 3rd down, Titans would get the ball to A.J. Brown on an end around, but it was perfectly read by Fred Warner and blown up. So that would force another punt. A lot of teams trying to run the ball with the receivers. We talked about it in the Washington segment, how they've started to do it more with DeAndre Carter, and I think that's a good thing because he's kind of filling that role that Curtis Samuel should have been filling all season.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Since he's just like made of glass apparently, and just never can play.
Yeah.
which is great.
Yeah, so Fred Warner blew that up. We take over again, and at the end of the first quarter, we'd outgained Tennessee 132 yards to 12, and
Yeah,
in theory,
that's impressive. Like
yeah,
Jesus
yeah.
Christ.
I mean, we should have been up at that point at least 10 or 14 to nothing if it hadn't been for that red zone pick.
Absolutely.
And
Probably would
then
have won the game.
yeah, I'd imagine so. So after catching two passes in the first quarter, Kittle wouldn't be targeted again for the remainder of the game. So yeah, Kittle was on a historic three-game stretch against Seattle, Cincinnati, and Atlanta, where over the course of
Mm.
3 games he had 425 receiving yards. So for him to only get
Damn.
21 receiving yards in this game was a little disappointing. But they just didn't really look his way after the first quarter. Um, Now Jimmy had an opportunity to hit a wide open Kyle Juszczyk, which I would say, I mean, the interception was a bad play, but I would say this was really like his first big miscue of the game because the interception was
Hmm.
tight coverage by Jack Rabbit Jenkins, but Jimmy just like Juszczyk was wide open by about 15 yards, and Jimmy just overthrew him. Juszczyk was trying to make like a diving effort, and I mean that would have been a touchdown right there if we're able to get in. Um,
Yeah.
so a few plays later, we're facing a 4th and 1. We would end up going for it. Jimmy rolls out to the left with the Tennessee defense coming after him, and actually unloads and finds Debo for a first down. So we kept the drive going. So that was awesome. The drive ends up stalling out though because Trent Williams gets called for a face mask on 3rd down. So that backed
Fucking
us up.
Trent Williams. No.
Yeah, I mean he's a great player, but he
He
definitely
is a
has
great
some
player.
untimely penalties. But that
He
set us
does.
up with a 3rd and 26.
Mm.
Debo on a little screen managed to get us in range to add a 48-yard Robbie Gould field goal to take a 10-0 lead. So at that point, looking pretty good for the Niners. 10,
This sounds like that Eagles game again.
yeah,
The first Eagles game.
I thought that too.
10-0.
I thought that too. I was like, it's almost like that Garrett Gilbert game where you guys got out to the 10
Yeah,
nothing start.
everything's great. We're maybe win
Yeah,
this game. Oh no,
yeah.
no, you're not.
And
Slow the
then,
fuck down.
and then the bed gets shit. The bed gets
Yep.
shit. And then yeah, so our defense was playing great too at this point, as they usually do. 3 of Tennessee's first 4 drives started with their first down play going for negative yards. So the Titans would end up picking up 1 first down on that next drive before having to punt again, but they were doing a lot of punting early on. Now on the next drive, Jimmy would end up suffering what was he didn't miss any time, but it was mentioned after the game that he had suffered a sprained thumb on his throwing hand when taking a 3rd down sack by Danico Autry. And we'll go ahead and put the stills up. We've actually got a shot where it shows as he was getting sacked, the Tennessee defender has a hold of Jimmy's thumb. Like, okay, well I can see when you've got a 300-pound man that takes you down by the thumb.
Yeah, and this feels like the moment where the game kind of turned. Things were going.
His numbers,
I mean,
yeah.
He did throw a pick and he didn't have any touchdowns, but 13 for 16 for 136 yards with he had one bad pick.
Yeah.
But if other than that, he had a really good start.
Yeah,
and then after
I
this
think that
injury,
it definitely affected him. It had to.
Absolutely.
It's on his throwing hand.
Exactly. It can't not affect him. So,
right.
And the fact he kept playing, it's like that kind of explains to me why that they didn't end up winning this game. Because if that hadn't happened, I'd be willing to bet that the outcome would have been different.
I'd imagine so as well. Yeah, and then the issue gets compounded after that when Wishnowsky has pretty much a shank punt on the day. And notable Wishnowsky news is it was actually revealed after this game that we'll report on that Wishnowsky was the first player all season long for the 49ers to test positive for COVID. So his status for the Texans game is up in the air. The Niners have signed a punter to the practice squad, Colby Wadman, just in case Wishnowsky can't go on Sunday. So the Titans.
Amazing, you've only had one COVID positive player.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Washington has about 22.
I know, especially I'm shocked by that. I am absolutely shocked, especially with the outbreak across the league. Yeah. Now, Tannehill would end up taking a deep shot on rookie Ambry Thomas, and we've been talking about Ambry just about every week now. Ambry's on like his 4th start, but this time he made an excellent pass breakup when, targeting A.J. Brown, Tennessee's best receiver. Also notable that I'll throw in, this was only the 7th game where Tennessee had Julio Jones and A.J. Brown in the same game. And Julio Jones had 1 catch for 7 yards on the first drive and was shut out the rest of the game. So that's notable. But we did get killed by A.J. Brown, as we'll get more into here in a little bit. So the Titans would not even manage a field goal attempt in the first half. They'd end up punting the ball back with 1:27. So the Niners having 2 timeouts. They try to get in range to add more points, but we would not be able to add anything. So we would end up going into the half leading 10-0. So definitely not a significant lead against a team like a top 10 defense in Tennessee. You could see why we only had 10 points, but I definitely by no means felt good about it in the first half. And I'm glad I didn't, because Tennessee came out, got the ball in the second half, and they'd be facing another 3rd and 15. Had them in long down and distance all day, facing a 3rd and 15 in the second half. And they were much better at picking up the 3rd and longs that they faced. So Tannehill finds Westbrook Akine again for 24 yards. Later on the drive, facing a 3rd and 7, he finds A.J. Brown, who, like I said, destroyed the secondary in the second half. They would end up converting 3 3rd and longs on that drive on us alone, after not being able to sustain anything in the first half. So finally we end up getting them to stall out and force a 38-yard Randy Bullock field goal to make it 10-3. So this is maybe where, because Jimmy had really only played like 1 drive after suffering the thumb injury in the second half. So this is where I think it started to more affect his play. On the first play of the next drive for the Niners, Jimmy ends up sailing the ball while looking for Debo and throws his 2nd pick of the day, and the Titans end up returning the ball inside the 20.
What's crazy is because on the opening play of the first half, he throws a pick. And then on the opening play of the second half, he throws another pick. Although his thumb was fucked up at that point. So
yeah, I didn't think about that. Well, it wasn't
understandable, but
yeah.
But yeah, it's just an odd coincidence there. It's like, man, the first play both times, like. Well, but I would imagine that the thumb had an impact on the second time.
Yeah. So actually, on the Niners' first drive, it was their second possession that he threw the.
Oh, it was their second possession. Yeah. Okay, my mistake.
Because they got the Jeff Wilson touchdown on their.
Oh, that's right. That's right. It was. Yeah. Gotcha.
But let me just give you A.J. Brown's numbers real quick. A.J. Brown for us, or against us, torched us for 11 catches for 145 yards and 1 touchdown. So we got absolutely killed in that game. I mean, there are reports that we might be getting Emmanuel Mosley back, who hasn't played in about 4 weeks. He's our number 1 corner with Jason Verrett being out. So yeah, we definitely need him back. Hopefully he can return by the Rams game. But yeah, I mean, we've definitely been struggling in the secondary. So Ambry Thomas, let's give the young man credit again, because he actually played a pretty decent game. I mean, he did get beat by A.J. Brown, but so did Norman when they ended up trying Josh Norman on him. But Thomas,
Josh Norman's not that great, but yeah.
Josh Norman struggled this season for sure at pretty much a lot, other than he does lead the NFL in forced fumbles though. So grateful to have him in that.
Yeah, I remember. Didn't he get a good punch out fumble at one point this season?
Yeah, he's had several. He's got like 6 forced fumbles.
Remember, one was just like a solid punch, like right on the ball.
I want to say that was against Seattle. I want to say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
It was like a boxing KO.
But it was just like boom, like.
Yeah, I mean Frank Gore could have used that.
Oh shit.
But yeah, anyway, with Ambry Thomas making a second pass breakup in the end zone, Titans end up getting in a couple plays later anyway on a Deonta Foreman touchdown run from 3 yards out to tie the game at 10-0. So midway through the third, after having a 10-0 lead at halftime, all of a sudden we're tied 10-10. And like I said, I knew Tennessee was going to be a struggle, because even with all the players they've had out, this is a good football team. I mean, they've got a chance to be the number 1 seed in the AFC. It's either going to be them or Kansas City.
Right.
So on our next drive, facing a 3rd and 7, talking about a lot of these same young guys every week for both Washington and San Francisco. Juwan Jennings, continuing to solidify himself as a potential number 3 receiver behind Aiyuk and Debo. Juwan Jennings making a nice catch on a 3rd and 7 for his first catch of the night. Jimmy would find Aiyuk for a gain of 17 on the next play, then facing a 4th down and 1, second of the day. Before the snap, Trent Williams would be called for a second.
Trent Williams again with his goddamn penalties, man. All too familiar.
Moved us back to a 4th and 6. And a situation where Jimmy and Aiyuk had a miscommunication where Jimmy thought Aiyuk was going to come inside and Aiyuk just turned and did the curl. The stick route. The stick route where you can either run and do the curl or cut in. Jimmy thought he was going to cut in and Aiyuk ran the curl. So it was a miscommunication. And Jimmy, Aiyuk ended up having to extend for the ball, but it was just it just hit him in the hands. So Tennessee takes over. But on the next drive, and I know we've mentioned him in the last couple weeks, backup lineman Jordan Willis, who we ended up picking up last year from the Jets, ended up getting a big sack to set up a 3rd and 23. But we would jump and give the Titans a free play. And Tannehill knew it, so he took advantage of Ambry Thomas. And Ambry Thomas had man coverage on A.J. Brown. This is one of the times that he got beat. And he had a good shot on the ball. He was right there. It was a contested catch. But A.J. Brown, is just an out-of-this-world receiver. He's really good. And he made a nice leaping catch over Ambry Thomas to gain 42 yards. So a couple plays later, we get our 3rd sack of the night. Kentavious Street getting in there. He actually got a sack while being engaged in a block. He was getting blocked, and then he reached one arm out and took Tannehill down. So that was one.
That's always fucking sweet to see when
Kentavious Street is coming on. He's had some injury problems. He's always been somebody that I've really wanted to see take the field. And because of the injury this year to Javon Kinlaw, he's gotten more of an opportunity to play at that inside defensive tackle spot. And he's had his best season ever. That's his 3rd sack of the season. And so again facing a 3rd and 10, Tennessee converts, finding again A.J. Brown. Like I said, he had 11 on the day. He killed us. And after that one, we ended up making the decision to switch to Josh Norman to begin covering him. And Tannehill still found A.J. Brown for a touchdown on that drive. So at that point, Tennessee takes their first lead of the day, 17-10. So it really didn't matter who the hell was covering him. So we really need Emmanuel Mosley back ASAP. So on the Niners' next drive, we would begin with Juwan Jennings dropping the ball, unfortunately on 1st down. On the second play, Debo would take a pitch out of the backfield, as he does so well for us in this game.
Yeah, seeing him do those plays, he's obviously a great receiver, but when they do run him out of the backfield like that, it's entertaining to watch. It's exciting, and he does it well. So it's great to see a receiver get to do both roles like that.
Debo on the day had 5 rushes for 32 yards, and he had 9 receptions for 159 yards. So Debo had 9 for 159, and A.J. Brown had 11 for 145 and a touchdown. So both of those guys went off. Those are 2 great receivers for their respective teams.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And obviously Washington in good shape with great young receivers as well, with young Mr. McLaurin. So
yeah. I mean, he's obviously pretty much the best player on the team.
You need to get him a franchise quarterback to throw him the ball to, but yeah, absolutely.
I know, absolutely.
Yeah. So then on that next play that we were talking about, an encouraging drive originally after we got that 1st down started to look pretty bleak when Alex Mack would get called for holding. Then Jimmy would get sacked again, facing a 2nd and 29. Jimmy finds Jennings on an 8-yard gain on 3rd down, but we end up going, it's like a 3rd and 21. We find Debo for 12, but we were facing a 4th and 9 at that point. It was too long to go for it. We had to punt. So at least it was a great punt that time. Backed Tennessee up, and then after Tennessee picked up a few 1st downs and bled a few minutes of clock, the Niners actually got their 4th sack of the day, which was split between Aziz Al-Shire and Samson Ebukam, which would actually be a split sack between each and give that's what would give Ebukam his 4.5 sacks on the season, which ties what he had last year with the Rams. Unfortunately, though, after that sack, Aziz Al-Shire would exit the game, so that was unfortunate. He would not return. The Niners would take over with 5:18 in the game, needing to go 96 yards backed up. 56 of that, though, coming on one play. This is a lot of the 159 I mentioned that Debo got when he hit him on a 56-yard slant, taking the ball all the way down to the Tennessee 6. Then Jimmy finds, it was great. It was a huge catch and run effort. And then Jimmy finds Aiyuk in the back of the end zone to tie the game, 17-17. But we unfortunately left Tennessee 2 minutes and 20 seconds to work with, so it was kind of like the Green Bay situation, where Jimmy led us on a great drive down there, which was great to see him lead us all the way down there with the thumb injury and throw a touchdown pass to Aiyuk in the back of the end zone. So then on the next drive, we helped Tennessee out, unfortunately, when former safety turned converted linebacker, a la our Landon Collins.
I was going to say, sounds like Landon Collins.
Would be called for the Niners' league-leading 17th defensive pass interference call of the season, which would give Tennessee an automatic first down. Tannehill would scramble on the next play for a 23-yard gain, and that would unfortunately set them up for a 44-yard game-winning Randy Bullock field goal with 9 seconds left on the clock. Now, the worst thing about that, like I saw it happen live, and Randy Bullock barely made that kick in. Like, it was like by that much.
Yeah.
Like, it was like, oh my God. You know, we'd be playing in overtime if it wasn't for that. So the Niners end up having 4 seconds on the clock. They try some crazy lateral shit, which was obviously unsuccessful. Like, they throw to Debo, then they go to Aiyuk, then it went to Jimmy, then it went to Kittle, then, you know, like it went to, I think, Hasty, and then like it ended up like getting tackled. So we got like 40 yards down the field, but it was just, you know, one of those absolute desperation situations where it's like, wow, this is what we're reduced to. Well, okay, you know, if you could just get in range to even give Robbie a shot, you know, like you feel pretty good about that. He's one of the best kickers in the league.
Well, with 4 seconds, you don't really have time for that.
Exactly.
You need at least like 11 seconds, maybe, probably, to throw a deep enough pass.
Exactly.
And that's like bare minimum.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so they were really, really desperate. So, like I mentioned, after the game, it was revealed that Jimmy had a sprained thumb, and you know that he's going to need off-season surgery. And it's also been announced that Trey Lance will be making his second career start this Sunday against the Houston Texans. So we're going to definitely monitor that situation and evaluate that and give our scouting report on how Trey looks in his second career start. Obviously, start number 1 was a 17-10 loss to Arizona, which he played a game where he ran the ball 18 times and, you know,
he's got to pass more, man. I mean, hopefully he does better this time around, but he's got to be able to pass more.
I mean, he's definitely gotten, you know, more practices. You know, the defense says he's been tearing it up in practice, so I'm excited to see it. You know, hopefully we can get Jimmy back for at least the Rams finale in the playoffs, if not that. But we'll continue to monitor the situation, and join us next week, and we'll let you guys know how that goes.